Welcome to Trigger Warning with your host, Chris Brumbles. Are you tired of the professional liars of fake news and far-left radicals? Are you ready for truth and common sense? The insanity and divisiveness of political correctness and identity politics have no place here. So welcome to Trigger Warning, where free speech is free speech, not racism. There are no participation trophies, so if your mind is weak, grab your binky, head to your safe space. Consider this your trigger warning.
Welcome to Trigger Warning. I'm your host, Chris Brumbles. A big thank you to Marty Rowe here at Kohai for making the magic happen. Too many people believe that we have constitutional rights. To tell you the truth, this is one of my pet peeves. When someone says constitutional rights, First Amendment rights, Second Amendment rights, etc., it shows me that they haven't even read the Constitution or the Bill of Rights, or that they are just repeating propaganda that has been spread through many years. The Bill of Rights are like the Ten Commandments. Thou shalt not, thou shalt not, thou shalt make no laws concerning, etc. Nowhere do they pretend to invent a right and give them to you. That would be a privilege, and it just ain't so. The Bill of Rights are a chain on the government telling them some of the things that they may not touch. It infers no rights. Our rights come from nature and nature's God. Your rights are inherent. They are part of you and cannot be separated from you. Kind of like heavy is to gold or light is to helium. You cannot take heavy from gold, can you? You are made in the image of your Creator, and like any other parent, you inherited certain traits from Him. Maybe you inherited blue eyes or blonde hair from your earthly parents, but from your heavenly Creator you inherited unalienable rights, which literally means cannot be taken or given away. Sometimes I get people who want to argue that the word is inalienable or unalienable is different than unalienable. This amounts to confusion. And yes, I have studied the word, and if you check Noah Webster's American Dictionary of the English Language of 1828, you will find that inalienable and unalienable mean exactly the same thing. In fact, when Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence, on the first draft he used the word inalienable, which he changed to unalienable on the final draft. Maybe he thought it sounded better, who knows. But the important thing is that our rights cannot be touched. Of course, would-be tyrants and despots disagree, and that is why we have over 30,000 illegal anti-gun laws on the books, not to mention laws that violate other rights that aren't touchable. When the founders were debating the Bill of Rights, there were two factions. There were the anti-federalists, which were really federalists, and there were the Federalists, which were really nationalists. Now, the Federalists did not want a Bill of Rights. They argued that we did not need a Bill of Rights because the government has no authority delegated concerning our rights, and that if we wrote a Bill of Rights, a future Congress would believe that they needed to interpret the rights, and then they would feel a need to regulate them as to uphold the Constitution. But the anti-federalists argued that there was a need for a Bill of Rights because in times of plenty, after enjoying liberty uninterrupted, people take their liberty for granted and grow complacent, lazy, apathetic, and forget about their rights. The anti-federalists wanted something tangible that people could look at and remind them from time to time of their rights. They believed that would keep them jealous of their rights and that there would be a less likely chance of a future despot stealing what was rightfully theirs. I believe that both sides were right, but I do believe that if the anti-federalists had not won the day, achieved a Bill of Rights for us, and restrained the government, reminding them in writing that they have limits, that we would have long ago, through usurpation, have had them stolen. Look what's going on today. There are no emergency clauses in the Constitution because our founders knew that everything would become an emergency. But the Constitution has effectively been suspended illegally for 6 months. We are guaranteed a Republican government under the rule of law, but what we are experiencing is straight up fascism. When you control what businesses are important, what they can sell, how many people can come in, etc., that is fascism. The illusion of personal property, but overtaxed and overregulated by bureaucracies. Fascism. It has never happened here in 244 years. Our rights are being assaulted daily. Corporations like Facebook and Twitter have literally decided that they are the ministry of truth and that they can shut you down anytime their ever-revolving rules decide that you have said something against their ever-changing policies. Welcome to 1984. With the invention of the term hate speech, they have given themselves an excuse to kill free speech. Who gets to determine what hate speech is? Think about it. Free speech is the protection of unpopular speech. You don't need to protect popular speech. There's no such thing as hate speech. Hate speech and free speech cannot exist in the same universe. These corporations don't only decide what is hate speech, they believe that they are the arbiters of morality and virtue. You know what another name for fascism is? Corporatism. This needs to end. The First Amendment protects 5 rights: religious liberty, free speech, freedom of the press, right to assemble, and right to redress grievances. We now see free speech zones on college campuses and other places. Government now thinks they can control where, when, how, and if churches can meet. Media corporations control everything you hear and see. Media has become so devoid of scruples that 86% of American people believe that they lie and spread fake news, according to a recent poll of 20,000 people. This isn't exactly new. As I said, history is repeating itself. Thomas Jefferson, in a letter to John Norville, wrote in 1807, "Nothing can be believed which is seen in the newspaper. Truth itself becomes suspicious by being put into that polluted vehicle." The real extent of this state of misinformation is known only to those who are in situations to confront facts within their knowledge with the lies of the day. Jefferson was calling out the fake news of the day and actually said that if he had an illiterate man and a man that read the newspaper, he would trust the illiterate man to be better informed. And today we are not only bombarded with fake news, it goes with us everywhere in our phones. Several years ago, my nephew called me from Montana and told me that he was doing a school paper on the Bill of Rights and needed my opinion. His question was simple enough, or so I thought. He asked, what is more important, the First Amendment or the Second Amendment? I hadn't really thought about our rights in that terms of which one is more important. Of course, immediately I said that the Second Amendment was the palladium of liberty which protects all other rights, which is what George Mason would have said. But I remembered that Daniel Webster might have a different opinion when he said, if all my possessions were taken from me, with one exception, I would choose to keep the power of communication, for by it I would regain all the rest. One thing is for sure, all of our rights are important, and all are under attack at this time in history. We better wake up, stand up, and speak up, because Daniel Webster also said, hold on, my friends, to the Constitution and the Republic for which it stands. Miracles do not cluster, and what has happened once in 6,000 years may not happen again. Hold on to the Constitution. For if the American Constitution should fail, there will be anarchy throughout the world. A week or so ago, a watermelon named Brady Bunch Preheim, I call him Watermelon not only because he is red on the inside and green on the outside, and has a watermelon seed for a brain, but because he actually looks like a watermelon. I call Brady Bunch, well, because there's a bunch of Brady. Anyway, after this clown decides to totally lie about the say-so, what it is and what it does, he decided to kind of threaten my life with a poison cake. He said I could bring my gun and he would bring a poison cake. Now, what kind of a special moron would bring a cake to a gunfight? He insinuated that he might debate me, but he would actually have to read something besides the rules for radical in the Communist Manifesto if he wanted to debate me. And besides, we're still waiting for him and his cronies to accept the climate debate challenge that we have offered him at least 3 times. Oh well, until feelings beat facts, I reckon Butterbean and his comrades will not debate us on the fallacious Marxist religion of anthropogenic climate change. In a couple of minutes, a friend of mine will be joining us on the show. Her name is Shari Dovale, and she is the founder, boss, editor, etc. of Redoubt News in northern Idaho. I am proud to be a contributor to her news site, and it actually got picked up nationally some time back. Kind of a big deal, I think. So she will be here after the upcoming break. We'll be right back. Hey folks, Chris here. Are you tired of political correctness and left-wing narratives? You must be, because you're listening to Trigger Warning, where we will have none of that. I'm your host, Chris Brumbles, and I have no filter when it comes to truth and common sense. I have a big mouth when it comes to protecting freedom and will never be afraid to use it. So tune in to AM 1600 Kohai every Tuesday at 3 for brand new shows, And if you have to miss one, don't fret. Trigger Warning rebroadcasts Monday through Friday at 3. Politics, constitutional issues, and history are just a few topics that we will conquer on Trigger Warning. So thank you for your support, and keep tuning in to Trigger Warning on AM 1600 KOHI. The Second Amendment is the palladium of liberty and protects the first law of nature, the right to defend yourself. Our rights have been under attack for many years now by would-be tyrants who want to control you. That's why I'm asking you to remember to vote yes on Measure 5-278, the Second Amendment Sanctuary Ordinance. Don't listen to the watermelons who are giving mis and disinformation on this county law that will protect your right to keep and bear arms. If you have questions about the say-so, call 503-263-5830 and leave a message with your contact name for Chris Brumbles, your chief petitioner for the say-so for the Columbia County. I will get in contact with you, answer your questions, and even get you a copy of the law if you'd like. So remember to vote yes on Measure 5-278, the say-so. And while you're thinking about it, go to OregonFirearms.org and sign up for the free alerts, where you will get the truth about the illegal laws coming out of Salem to turn you, the law-abiding citizen, into a felon or a victim of a criminal who aren't affected by these laws. Did you know that using the CDC's own stats, if you don't plan on using a firearm to commit a crime, commit suicide, and aren't a gangbanger, your chances of being shot by a firearm are 0.08%. That's right, you are far more likely to be struck by lightning. Gun laws are about control. It's time to be better informed about what's going on in Salem, so go to OregonFirearms.org, sign up for the free alerts, and if you feel like donating, it's not required, but it will be put to good use. As important as the Second Amendment is, the free speech protections of the First Amendment are just as important. I'm a proud contributor to Redoubt News. Please subscribe to Redoubt News, where citizen journalists who actually care about accuracy put in the time to do the research and fact check. Don't rely on the fake news of the lamestream media. Sign up to get Redoubt News. It costs nothing. And if we get enough people interested, Redoubt News Oregon will be coming soon. Remember, Redoubt News for real Americans like you. Once again, thank you for listening to Trigger Warning. Let's get back to it right now. Hey, Columbia County, we're here with a good special guest from Redoubt News, Shari Dovale. How you doing, Shari? We're calling you from behind enemy lines here. How's it going up there?
Well, it's going up here great here in free America, and you're over there in the occupied zone. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I was going to start today by telling a joke about COVID-19, but 99.98% of the people won't get it.
That's a good one. I like that.
Yeah, can we start out by having you tell people, joining in here about yourself a little bit?
Sure. I have been running Redoubt News for, 5 or 6 years now. And I've covered a lot of issues from around the country and a lot of issues from around the American Redoubt. And I'm just here to share what I can.
Awesome. So how are the things in the land of the free up there? How are things going?
We had some great news last week. I don't know if you remember Todd Engel.
Yeah, I think so. Is that the ponytail guy?
No.
Okay.
Todd Engel was one of the Bundy defendants in Nevada.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah. The Ninth Circuit Appellate Court heard arguments in May on both Todd Engel's conviction and on the fact that the government's trying to retry Cliven Bundy and those defendants there. Oh. And they issued their rulings last week in which they upheld the dismissal for the Bundy case, and they vacated Todd Engel's conviction.
That's awesome.
Which is major, 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 major. They ruled that the court violated Todd Engel's Sixth Amendment rights to self-representation, and they vacated the conviction, ordered it remanded back to Nevada for a new trial, and the odds are against him getting a new trial.
Good.
It looks like he's going to be freed in a few weeks.
Good. How long has he been in jail? Do you know?
about 4.5 years.
My land. You know, I honestly believe that every judge and every police officer, or at least the judges, should have to spend 1 or 2 weeks in jail so they know what they're giving out. I really do, because some of these. I mean, what did he really do? What did he do? He never pointed a gun at anybody.
He didn't do anything.
Right.
He never fired a gun. He never hurt anybody. As a matter of fact, the police told him that, they congratulated him, patted him on the back, told him what a great job he did. But he was cocky.
Yeah.
Okay? Todd is cocky, and he knows it. He and I have talked about this. And, I can't really blame him. Sometimes people just get up there and say, see, I told you so. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much what he did on camera in Nevada and at the courthouse in Las Vegas. Mm-hmm. He's one of those that kind of likes mic drop moments, but I believe he actually earned those, okay? Mm-hmm. He really did. He showed the government up, and that was his mistake.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, how many times have the Bundys been tried? They've already been tried like three or four times in each state, haven't they? I mean, I don't get it. I don't get it.
You got to remember, there were 2 separate cases that they tried to combine.
Right. But
okay?
still,
Well, the way they tried to combine them is they tried to get Clive and Bundy on the RICO Act as, the head of an organized crime family. Well, a lot of people don't know that, but yeah, the government was trying that.
Yeah, I thought I knew all about that case, but so let's start out.
I covered so much of that case. I could probably talk to you about it in my sleep and not get half of it covered. I mean, I could just keep talking.
Right. Well, one thing I love about Shari is she is a strong, conservative woman, and she is a bulldog, and she does tell it like it is. I like that. But can you go ahead and tell the people a little bit about Redoubt News and, what
we went online, started Redoubt News on January 1st, 2016. And we covered a couple of little things, but our first big thing was Burns, Oregon.
Right.
And I spent the better part of a month and a half down there covering everything. And I had been covering things prior to that. It's just that we went under our own banner at that point.
Well, I was telling the people, I do a little rant when we come into the show, that, and correct me if I'm wrong,
but Chris, I got to tell you, I've got to interject for 1 second.
Sure.
We're putting trigger warning up on Redoubt News and up on our podcast, and we're going to get letters, and I love it.
All right, cool. Well, and tell me if I'm wrong about this, but I told the people that this is citizen journalists that actually do, fact check and do research. And am I wrong? Is it just citizen journalists?
It is all based on citizen journalism.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Citizen action that all powers Redoubt News.
Right.
There's only a couple of us that do this every day.
Yeah.
And somebody down covering city council meetings might say, we had a really interesting city council meeting. I'll tell them, write it up and send it in. Awesome. We get letters to the editor. If they have not fact-checked their articles, mm-hmm. I will do some of the fact-checking, or I will just put it in under an opinion piece. Well, okay, I try to be very clear about some of that. They need to fact-check their articles, and they need to give me the links and proof that they've fact-checked them. But I can't do everything. I get calls every single day. Can you cover this issue? And I'll ask them, why don't you cover that issue?
Yeah.
I can't do it all.
I've heard that before. As a contributor, I can guarantee that she fact-checks, because she was a little... actually changed my stats one time, and I called her and said, hey, why'd you do that? Well, send me some proof. And so I sent her some proof, and she fixed it. So She does fact check, and I like that. I personally do. It keeps everybody on their toes, and we're so sick and tired of the fake news from the lamestream media. I mean, it's just gotten ridiculous. Now, I don't know if you heard the speech that the president did on July 4th, and if you heard the way it was reported by CNN, MSNBC, all those, it was.
Oh, absolutely.
It was just, the earth was opening up. You know, the sky was falling, and all he did was get out and try to unify people. And you know, the guy loves this country, and knock on wood, hopefully they don't steal this election like they're trying to. But whatever possessed you to take on this monstrous effort in the first place?
That was a directive from God. I listened to God. He kind of slapped me around because I didn't want to do it, but he made a point that I needed to get this done.
Yeah.
I'm
doing the same for the same reason.
Christian, and my direction always comes from him.
Well, I hope people around here will start, you know, go on there and give you a try. Because the reason I started doing this show is because I write a lot of op-eds for the local papers too, and I got censored. And I called them.
There was only one time that I remember telling you to dial it back.
Yeah.
Because I love the way you come out unfiltered.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
And, you know, just shooting from both hips. And I like that because that wakes people up, and that's what they need to have done.
Well, I got censored because I used the term, and I explained why I was using the term, Black Lives Matter. And, you know, it was built on a lie. It was built on the lie of hands up, don't shoot, which never happened. And, anyways, so...
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, did you hear what happened with them this weekend?
No.
In Chicago?
No.
They held a rally in Chicago, and the mayor, Beetlejuice, you know, that's what I call her, she came out and said that this is bad, this is criminal. Well, BLM got so upset with her, they said, this is reparations. Anything these looters want to take, they can take it because businesses have insurance, and therefore we get reparations.
Reparations.
Can you believe that?
Reparations for what? None of those people were ever slaves.
I'm not even sure if it's reparations for slavery anymore.
Were these the white Caucasian or the Caucasian black supremacists, or were they just black supremacists? It doesn't even matter.
It was the riots in Chicago, so there were thousands, you know, on both sides.
Yeah. Well, it seems the whole Northwest is recalling their tyrannical governors. How is your recall going on your governor?
Well, actually, I'm going to have some more updates on that this week. Mm-hmm. It goes beyond the recall with this governor. He's actually been served a lawsuit and is required to respond to a lawsuit because he wants to take the money from the CARES Act and pass it out to 44 different counties and he's telling them that this is to go and offset property taxes, which is actually illegal.
Uh-huh.
Okay, that's not what the CARES Act is all about. And if they do that, now see, the CARES Act, the feds are going to come in and audit every dime of that money and what you did with it. Okay? So if they audit it and find out that they use this money to offset property taxes, then they're not only going to take that money back, but somebody's going to go to jail too, but they're going to take that, then they're going to take every other bit of federal money that they've gotten. Okay? So there's a lot in the bottom line of this that people don't realize. Well, our county commissioners found this and started this lawsuit. Well, this is only bolstering the recall.
Yeah.
Now, today is the day that they turn in all the signatures for the recall of little Brad. I mean, Brad Little.
Yeah.
And they've, you know, I don't have the signatures. They were talking last night about overnighting some stuff down there to get more signatures in. They've just got people just coming out of the woodwork trying to sign. All I know is once the recall got announced, that's when Governor Chicken Little decided he was going to quit talking.
Yeah.
And he's decided he's not on the airways every day like he'd been. And they've caught him going around to different events, not wearing his mask, but when he gets on camera, of course, he puts his mask on. So he's been lying to everybody, and people are starting to see this, and we have signatures from every single county in the state. Hopefully it's enough.
Imagine that. Well, we're going to break here for about 3 minutes, and we'll be right back with Shari Dovale from Redoubt News. Hey, folks, Chris here. Are you tired of political correctness and left-wing narratives? You must be, because you're listening to Trigger Warning, where we will have none of that. I'm your host, Chris Brumbles, and I have no filter when it comes to truth and common sense. I have a big mouth when it comes to protecting freedom and will never be afraid to use it. So tune in to AM 1600 Kohai every Tuesday at 3 for brand new shows. And if you have to miss one, don't fret. Trigger Warning rebroadcasts Monday through Friday at 3. Politics, constitutional issues, and history are just a few topics that we will conquer on Trigger Warning. So thank you for your support, and keep tuning in to Trigger Warning on AM 1600 KOHI. The Second Amendment is the palladium of liberty and protects the first law of nature, the right to defend yourself. Our rights have been under attack for many years now by would-be tyrants who want to control you. That's why I'm asking you to remember to vote yes on Measure 5-278, the Second Amendment Sanctuary Ordinance. Don't listen to the watermelons who are giving mis and disinformation on this county law that will protect your right to keep and bear arms. If you have questions about the say-so, call 503-263-5830 and leave a message with your contact name for Chris Brumbles, your chief petitioner for the say-so for the Columbia County. I will get in contact with you, answer your questions, and even get you a copy of the law if you'd like. So remember to vote yes on Measure 5-278, the say-so. And while you're thinking about it, go to OregonFirearms.org and sign up for the free alerts, where you will get the truth about the illegal laws coming out of Salem to turn you, the law-abiding citizen, into a felon or a victim of a criminal who aren't affected by these laws. Did you know that using the CDC's own stats, if you don't plan on using a firearm to commit a crime, commit suicide, and aren't a gangbanger, your chances of being shot by a firearm are 0.08%. That's right, you are far more likely to be struck by lightning. Gun laws are about control. It's time to be better informed about what's going on in Salem, so go to OregonFirearms.org, sign up for the free alerts, and if you feel like donating, it's not required, but it will be put to good use. As important as the Second Amendment is, the free speech protections of the First Amendment are just as important. I'm a proud contributor to Redoubt News. Please subscribe to Redoubt News, where citizen journalists who actually care about accuracy put in the time to do the research and fact check. Don't rely on the fake news of the lamestream media. Sign up to get Redoubt News. It costs nothing, and if we get enough people interested, Redoubt News Oregon will be coming soon. Remember, Redoubt News for real Americans like you. Once again, thank you for listening to Trigger Warning. Let's get back to it right now. Hello, Columbia County. We are back with Shari Dovale from Redoubt News, and were you done talking about your governor?
Oh, I can always talk more about him, but let's move on.
So, you said you had some interesting stuff from coming out of Seattle. Would you like to expand on that?
There's been some headlines hit in the last day or two out of Seattle, and the city council has approved a plan to defund the police. They're going to lay off at least 100 officers. They've cut the salary for the police chief. And she was making quite a bit of money. I mean, she was making $285,000 a year. But they've cut her, and I don't know the percentage, but she got so upset that she up and quit. Uh-huh. She emailed her resignation last night.
So, from what I understand, that chief police wasn't doing anything anyway. She was never even there except for to show up for the cameras, according to other officers I've read about. I don't know if that's true.
Well, I don't know enough about Seattle. I try very hard to stay away from it. It only butts up against the American Redoubt. that state split, we'll be, happy as a pig in slop. What can we say?
Yeah. I have to thank you again for inviting me a couple months ago to speak at Liberate America. That was a pretty good turnout. Everything was great except for the weather. I mean, so how many people showed up at that event?
In actual fact, I was very surprised. We got a very accurate count because we put counters on each of the gates.
Right.
The kind you click every time somebody walks through. Mm-hmm. And we had 3,000 people on a rainy day out there.
Yeah.
It was amazing. If we had not had the rain, we probably could have had another Woodstock.
Yeah. Oh, well, I've told the readers...
You were very popular out there, Chris. We're going to have to get you back out there.
I was? Why?
Yeah, you were.
Must have been my good
You're
looks.
You're very popular all the way around.
Oh, well...
your articles, get shared quite a bit. Even your first podcast last week has gotten quite a few hits.
Oh, good.
So you're developing a little following there, Chris. We're going to have to build on that.
Oh, okay. Well, I appreciate it. I mean, I'm flattered. Well, I told...
Like I say, I think it's because that you are kind of unfiltered and shoot from the hip, and that is kind of what I talk about with Trump and the Trump. He doesn't talk above anybody. Well, neither do you. You talk the way people think, and that's why you're popular.
Well, thank you. And, I don't care about being popular. All I care is being effective in teaching people about their liberties. Yeah, but once
you're popular, then you will be able to reach a lot more people.
And that's exactly why. Otherwise, honestly, if our country would just get back the way it's supposed to be, I'd rather be out playing with my dog or shooting or fishing or hunting, to be honest with you. But I got 6 grandchildren and 5 children, and I'm not going to fail to do my duty to pass liberty to them like it was passed to me.
Absolutely.
So I've told the listener here, if there's a good following on Redoubt News, we've talked about branching out into Redoubt News Oregon. It could come at a better time, I don't think, because of all the the extreme bias toward for the left. Quite frankly, the fake news that we've seen even in these newspapers. What do you think? What do you think about that?
I think Redoubt News Oregon, the timing is right. I think we need to get some good people in place to take it over and start building it. We've been publishing a lot of stuff on Oregon.
Right.
A lot of it comes from you and Oregon Firearms Federation. Mm-hmm. But that's where we started. We started in Burns, Oregon.
Yeah.
And we just built from there. And I would love to see Redoubt News Oregon take off.
Yeah, me too. And, the price is right. All they have to do is go on the internet. It doesn't cost anything. But it would be nice if people would donate.
I've got the site already. That doesn't even cost them that.
Yeah. Well, you're going to like this because I finally recorded a commercial, and part of the commercial is Redoubt News. So they'll be hearing that every day here this week and the weeks to come. Oh, no, we help each other. That's what we do. And
Brett and I do a weekly podcast. We've just started doing it, and it's not popular yet. We're trying to get it shared, and it's called Wake Up Redoubt.
Yeah.
And this weekend we put your clip in as one of the commercial sponsors. So.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
It's going out every week as well.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So, you know who Adam Carolla is, right?
Yep.
I was listening to him. I like that guy. He's kind of says it like it is too, and he's a little more. I can't think of the word I'm trying to. Diplomatic, I reckon, than I am. But he said that he thinks that next year Hollywood is going to be putting out conservative movies because they are going broke. And then I was reading about this go woke, go broke thing. Have you heard about that?
No, I don't know much about it, but I tell you what, I don't think much of the Hollyweird people.
Yeah, well, evidently, this leftist ideology they keep pushing is backfiring on them, and they're, these big stores like Target I don't want to mention all these other stores that are pushing this left-wing ideology and donate money to them. It sounds like it's going.
There's a whole list of them. There's hundreds, and
Yeah.
I had published that list at one point. I'll have to dig it out.
Well, it seems to me like the pendulum is swinging back to the right. People have finally got tired of the fake news and got tired of watching gays on TV.
But will it be in time? There's the problem. I don't know that it'll be in time.
Yeah.
I believe that we've got less than 90 days before crap's really going to hit the fan. It doesn't matter who wins the election.
Right.
One side or the other is going to start is going to initiate a lot of. Do we minimize it and call it hate and discontent? Because I think it could actually go as much as a civil war.
Right.
Okay. If Trump wins, the left has already said they're gonna do it. If Biden wins, the right's not going to put up with that nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter who wins. I have always believed in Trump. I'm a big Trump supporter.
Right.
However, I am not blinded by his faults. I
Right.
said in 2016, and I've been saying ever since, that Trump is not your savior. He is just there to buy you some time, and which he
Right.
did. He bought you 4 years. But I believe that this November we're going to see things happen that we've never expected to see in our lifetime.
Yeah, well, I can't imagine anybody really voting for sleepy, sleazy Biden. The guy has got to be level 5 dementia. I mean,
well, that's what the D in Democrat stands for, is dementia. Did you realize?
Yeah. Well, even Democrats don't like Biden, that I've talked to, anyways. So
no, they don't. And it's actually starting to get reported that the Democrats are starting to realize that Biden can't win against Trump. Now, they're hoping that he gets a strong enough VP that everybody will be voting for that person, because
Right.
they believe that person will be taking over the presidency as soon as Biden gets sworn in, if he should.
Well, I wouldn't want to be Biden if he does win. He probably have a life expectancy life expectancy of a machine gunner in Vietnam, out of a helicopter, a door gunner.
Yep.
But okay, so I messed up. I just looked at the clock and I thought we were out of time, but we're not. So, I can before this all happened, before this media-driven scamdemic, I think President Trump would have won. I mean, hugely. I think it would have been like Ronald Reagan in his second run for president. I mean,
I think there's a chance of that still.
I do too, because I'm looking around here, and we checked our county, and our county from January to March, 116 people changed parties, and there was, I think, 2 or 3 independents, and the rest were Democrats, all changed to the Republican Party. Nobody went the other way, and that's only 2 months.
I don't follow that a whole lot, because we have a lot of Democrats in Idaho that register as Republicans,
Right.
so that they can have some influence over the primaries. So I don't look at that part a whole lot, but I am in tune with several areas around the country. And the thing is the silent majority is a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
Reagan talked about the silent majority, and that's how he won. And that is what's going to bolster Trump, is the people who are smart enough to know that they can't speak up because they will be targeted.
Mm-hmm.
So they keep their views to themselves, but they vote accordingly. And that is why the Democrats want to vote by mail, because that is easily manipulated.
Of course, and look at what happened in New York. They voted by mail 6 weeks ago for a primary, and they still don't have results. They're trying to decide, I guess, who's going to win. It's unreal.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, with the assault there's a huge assault on the First Amendment, nearly as aggressive as the Second Amendment. Have you felt that up there?
Oh, absolutely. We were listed on, I don't know if you remember when Google actually, somebody came up and leaked their blacklist, we were actually listed on there separately. And I have an article on that on Redoubt News. And Facebook has tried to manipulate our numbers dramatically.
Yeah. Yeah, did you see the Twitter? There was a bunch of doctors in Washington, D.C. Oh, I'd have to pull out the article.
Oh, I know the video you're referring to. Dr. Gold actually got fired over that one.
Yeah, so I guess Twitter they are medical experts now, and like I said, they're the arbiter of truth and morality, so they get to choose everything you see and read.
Nobody's
This is
allowed
fascism.
their own opinion.
Yeah, this is all fascism. You know that, right?
Oh, absolutely it is.
Yes.
This is 1984.
Mm-hmm. I mentioned that in my opening. So, when I went up there, I talked about pushing the say-so in Idaho. Has anybody... Well, I do know one person who's working on it in central Idaho. Has anybody thought about it up there?
Well, a lot of people don't believe that it's necessary out here because we are one of the few places that are extremely free with our guns. We've got constitutional carry within the state. However, I think that you cannot have enough protections for the Second Amendment rights. And, the one thing that a lot of people don't realize is the Second Amendment does not give you the right to carry or anything else. It only guarantees your rights from God.
Right.
The same as every other amendment. Mm-hmm. All they do is guarantee your rights that were already given to you by God.
Exactly.
Okay? And that's the thing that we have to, impress upon people because they believe that, the Second Amendment gave me the right to carry, so I don't need anything else. Well, yeah, you do. The guarantees are not being upheld. Mm-hmm. Therefore, the say-so would be a good thing out here.
Right. Well, I'm going to respond to. I want to talk about this a little more after the break. So we'll be right back. We have Shari Dovale from Redoubt News. We'll be back in a minute or 3 minutes. Hey, folks, Chris here. Are you tired of political correctness and left-wing narratives? You must be because you're listening to Trigger Warning, where we will have none of that. I'm your host, Chris Brumbles, and I have no filter when it comes to truth and common sense. I have a big mouth when it comes to protecting freedom and will never be afraid to use it. So tune into AM 1600 Kohai every Tuesday at 3 for brand new shows. And if you happen to miss one, don't fret. Trigger Warning rebroadcasts Monday through Friday at 3. Politics, constitutional issues, and history are just a few topics that we will conquer on Trigger Warning. So thank you for your support and keep tuning in to Trigger Warning on AM 1600 KOHI. The Second Amendment is the palladium of liberty and protects the first law of nature, the right to defend yourself. Our rights have been under attack for many years now by would-be tyrants who want to control you. That's why I'm asking you to remember to vote yes on Measure 5-278, the Second Amendment Sanctuary Ordinance. Don't listen to the watermelons who are giving mis and disinformation on this county law that will protect your right to keep and bear arms. If you have questions about the say-so, call 503-263-5830 and leave a message with your contact name for Chris Brumbles, your chief petitioner for the say-so for the Columbia County. I will get in contact with you, answer your questions, and even get you a copy of the law if you'd like. So remember to vote yes on Measure 5-278, the say-so. And while you're thinking about it, go to OregonFirearms.org and sign up for the free alerts, where you will get the truth about the illegal laws coming out of Salem to turn you, the law-abiding citizen, into a felon or a victim of a criminal who aren't affected by these laws. Did you know that using the CDC's own stats, if you don't plan on using a firearm to commit a crime, commit suicide, and aren't a gangbanger, your chances of being shot by a firearm are 0.08%. That's right, you are far more likely to be struck by lightning. Gun laws are about control. It's time to be better informed about what's going on in Salem, so go to OregonFirearms.org, sign up for the free alerts, and if you feel like donating, it's not required, but it will be put to good use. As important as the Second Amendment is, the free speech protections of the First Amendment are just as important. I'm a proud contributor to Redoubt News. Please subscribe to Redoubt News, where citizen journalists who actually care about accuracy put in the time to do the research and fact check. Don't rely on the fake news of the lamestream media. Sign up to get Redoubt News. It costs nothing, And if we get enough people interested, Redoubt News Oregon will be coming soon. Remember, Redoubt News for real Americans like you. Once again, thank you for listening to Trigger Warning. Let's get back to it right now. Yeah, Columbia County, we're back with Shari Dovale of Redoubt News, who's an awesome guest. And we were talking about the Second Amendment Sanctuary Ordinance. I had went up to Idaho to Liberate America, and I talked about that, trying to get them to push it in Idaho. The problem is I have friends up there who have said, oh, we don't need it here because we're 2 generations away from losing our right to keep and bear arms. The problem is Bloomberg. You remember Bloomberg? Mr. Bloomberg coming to Oregon about, 2015, bought off our Senate, and then he gave a super majority to the House, and now, we're at the we're just sitting here, whatever the governor says, the governor does. And I do think that they are attacking Idaho, and they do. I mean, I saw who they elected for mayor in Boise, and I do think you need a Second Amendment sanctuary ordinance. They have a great law protecting them. They have it's nullification from the federal government that they will not obey any more federal gun laws. But you need to go I do believe you need to go to the counties and protect them from the state. What do you think on that?
Well, North Idaho is the heart of the American Redoubt.
Yes.
Okay, we are the freest area in the nation, in my belief. Mm-hmm. All right? But right in the middle of North Idaho, we've got Sandpoint.
Right.
And Sandpoint has a very commie mayor.
Mm-hmm.
All right? He's marched with Black Lives Matter. He has embroiled his jurisdiction in a lawsuit over gun rights, mm-hmm. believing that he can strip people of their gun rights if it's done within his jurisdiction under his rules or whatever.
Right.
And there is an ongoing lawsuit about that currently involving the festival at Sandpoint.
Speaking of lawsuits... go ahead. I apologize.
But we get Bloomberg out here. He didn't come out here personally that I know of, but he's got a lot of groups out here that he is funding.
Right.
All right, and they are doing everything they can to dial back everybody's rights, not just gun rights, but they are included. We cannot stop the fight. We must keep it going. Even though we are a very free state and we do have the constitutional carry, mm-hmm. It's not enough.
Right.
We need to concrete those rights.
And it's sad because the Second Amendment says that all shall not be infringed. Literally means shall not be undermined or regulated. I told that to our senator out here several years ago, and she looked right at me.
Yeah, they don't understand what shall not means. They think it means may not.
She literally said to me, yeah, but we think we can regulate them. I told her the definition. Yeah, we think we can regulate them. So, I mean, but she does some good stuff, so I'm not going to talk bad about her. I actually, it's funny. I've got these stats from the CDC here, and they're not real gun friendly. And last year there was 32,000 deaths by guns, 60% suicide, 3% accidents, 4% justified, 33% homicide. 80% of the homicides were gang related. And according to their own stats, that leaves 1,712 people in a country. They use 312 million. I think that's a real low estimate. But if you are if it comes down to if you're not part of a gang and you don't commit crime and don't plan on committing suicide with a firearm, you have a 0.000008 or 0.08% chance of death by a firearm. And then I had this other...
Sounds like the figures for COVID 1984.
What's that?
It sounds like the same figures for COVID 1984.
Right.
I mean, there's just very, very little chance of anybody, being harmed.
Yeah. And then you take into account that we're 98th, and I think this is actually fudged by the UN, UNICEF or whatever, or not UNICEF, I forget what but it's a UN group.
United Nations.
Yeah. The UN which are not gun friendly either, has United States of America 98th on the most violent crimes list. So there are 97 countries, and usually, by the way, the last 2 years it was around 115, so I think they fudged the numbers on that. So there's 97 countries above us that all have been disarmed to have more violent crime. And then
I think I've seen those stats, and I think what they've done is they've taken the stats from Chicago, New York, and L.A.
Right.
And maybe Seattle.
And they change them,
They took those left-leaning, gun-controlled cities out of the mix, we'd be number one.
Yeah. You're more likely to get hit by lightning than get shot by a gun. No kidding. I mean, so mass shooters in America, which, they always fudge those numbers. But so John Locke Jr., he's the best at these numbers. He describes everything. He shows how he gets them. He shows all the facts. He just did a study not too long ago and discovered that we have 1.25% of all the world's mass shootings. You would never know that listening to the media.
I believe that.
1.25%. And I can send you that study, too, if you want.
I would like that.
Yeah.
I would like to see that study.
Let me write that down so I don't forget. Send study.
Brett, who is my other half and the other half of Redoubt News, is very good with numbers and statistics.
Yeah.
He's got that analytical mind, and he just kind of tears through these things sometimes.
Yeah. Well, y'all are lucky in one way. Your legislature is opposite of ours. Ours are all Democrats, but you have all Republicans.
Well,
but you do have a lot of rhinos.
We have a lot of rhinos. We have a majority of rhinos. Mm-hmm. Even the ones that got elected as liberty legislators, some of them have turned rhino, and it's very disappointing. But again, we have recalls going, and we have people challenging them in the elections, which is what needs to happen. People need to stand up and say, "Hey, look, you promised us one thing when we elected you, and you've changed your mind. We're gonna primary you, or we're gonna vote you out."
Yeah. Well, our time is almost up, and I'm going to give you a minute or so to wrap up with whatever you'd like to say. And I thank you for being here. You're an awesome guest. And so you want to tell everybody about all Redoubt News and how to get a hold of them and get on and get subscribed and everything?
Absolutely. RedoubtNews.com. RedoubtNews.com. You can find us on our own website. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, a ton of social medias. Anytime there's a new social media, we're on there. So you can find us at all of them, including Spreely, and there's just a bunch of them. And we want you to come see, because we cover a lot of different issues, everything in the American Redoubt, which is Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Eastern Oregon, and Eastern Washington, is considered the Redoubt.
Right.
And that is just a geographical term. It's also a political migration. People are trying to leave the occupied zones and come to where America's a little bit freer.
Yes.
And that's what we like to call our area up here, is free America.
Yeah, well, hopefully y'all keep the Californians out.
Well, we've actually had a few come in. Some of them are not so good. Some of them are great. But we've also expanded over to Podbean, and that's where Trigger Warning is going to be found. Mm-hmm. We also have Wake Up Redoubt out there, which is our weekly podcast. We do quite a bit, and we're trying to expand all the time with all the help that we can get from the various citizens of the different states and areas. And we also get a lot of reports in from around the country, so we don't focus on just one little bit of news.
Right.
We might do some local, we might do some regional, and we might do some national and world. We've covered it all.
Right.
And some of it I will go and travel for, and some of it I will let you do.
Yeah.
So we all try and work together as a big team. Come see us. Tell us what you think.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Shari, for being on today. And I might add that they do a lot of stories you won't see in the mainstream media anyways. It was good talking to you, and I'll give you a call in a little while.
That sounds great. Thanks again, Chris, and good luck on everything.
Thank you. Did you know that liberty is the inherent possession of men and women, and not the gift of government? Did you know that we do not elect kings or queens, for that matter, and that our rights are not negotiable? It seems that Crazy Kate has forgotten these facts, or more like she hopes you have. There are no emergency clause in the U.S. Constitution, with the possible exception of militias. Our founders knew better. They knew that there are no angels among men, and there certainly are no angels in government. They knew that the power, true power, lies with the people, and the government is supposed to serve at our pleasure. They knew that if they had added an emergency clause, everything would become an emergency. Everything. No place is that more evident than in Oregon, where we can repeal laws by initiative that are not popular or not in our best interest, unless they are passed with an emergency clause. Almost every law the legislature has written in the past several years has had an emergency clause added to disenfranchise your vote. Who works for who anyway? Is banning bags and straws really an emergency? The Constitution has effectively, illegally been ignored for the first time in 244 years. Our founders are rolling over in their graves. Gee, you think they knew what they were doing when they wrote the Bill of Rights? We are guaranteed the rule of law under a Republican form of government, but there is no rule of law in Oregon, as radical Marxists burn and pillage at will, and the police are ordered to stand down and watch as Portland's mayor and the governor violate their oaths of office, commit treason, and help these terrorists turn Oregon into a third world. Where do you think they will come for the money to rebuild Portland? Antifa? Black Lives Matters? No, they will force the victims to pay for damages. At the same time, we are subject to fascist policies where unelected bureaucrats write rules that act as law to intimidate, control, and destroy businesses and the economy. Tell you not to wear a mask, then coerce you into wearing masks against your will that don't even stop the viruses. Stay 6 feet apart, controlling churches, stand on your head. Where does it stop? All these things are illegal, but the governor is trying to steal an election and setting up for forced vaccines and total control. Remember, the left want total, uncontested social and political control by any means necessary and regardless of the consequences. When is enough enough? We were told to stay home for 14 days. 6 months later, the governor is still pushing this media-driven scamdemic that for the first time in history, healthy people were quarantined so that she can prove that absolute power corrupts absolutely. I am saddened to see all these people who have worked their whole lives hard, building a business, that have lost everything. For what? Politics. I have not and will not wear a mask. I will not take a vaccine, and I will not give up any of my rights. This needs to end, and end now, if not sooner. Remember that when you vote in November. That insanity is doing the same thing over and expecting different results. Let's fire Brad Witt, replace Alex Tardif with Casey Garrett, make sure radical nutjob Dudzik does not get elected, and protect our rights by passing the Second Amendment sanctuary ordinance. Let there be a reckoning that the majority party won't soon forget. Let's keep Columbia County normal and sane, and until next time, God bless.
You've been listening to Trigger Warning with Chris Brumbles. You can email your comments to kohi.radio@gmail.com. And listen again next time for Trigger Warning with Chris Brumbles.